In the summer of 1590, an English supply ship arrived at Roanoke Island to find a settlement completely devoid of life. 115 men, women, and children were gone. Investigators found no bodies and no signs of a struggle. They found only a single piece of evidence left at the site: the word Croatoan carved into a wooden palisade post. That solitary carving became the foundation for 4 centuries of folklore. It fueled stories of dark magic, cursed land, and an entire population evaporating into the coastal mist. But human beings don't vanish. History is governed by physical reality, and a large group of people leaving a settlement leaves a trail of material evidence, regardless of how they depart. To see past the myth, we have to look at the site through a lens of deduction. By analyzing the physical record left behind, we can reconstruct what actually happened on the ground. To understand the evidence, we have to look at the timeline. Governor John White had originally left Roanoke for England to gather essential supplies, but the outbreak of the Anglo-Spanish War trapped him across the ocean for 3 years. When he finally managed to sail back, the site wasn't a ruin. Beyond the lack of human remains, the most striking detail was that the colony's structures hadn't been burned or ransacked. They had been deliberately dismantled. Before White left, he and the settlers agreed on a protocol. If the colonists were forced to leave under threat of attack, they were to carve a Maltese cross near their destination carving. White searched the perimeter surrounding the fort. He found the Croatoan carving, but there was no cross etched anywhere on the post. The combination of the dismantled houses and the missing distress signal suggests the departure was a planned, deliberate relocation. For decades, historians tested a few primary theories. The first proposes that the settlers were killed by a Spanish military patrol or a hostile local tribe. A mass casualty event leaves a specific footprint. Searchers would find scattered bone fragments, discarded weapons, and scorched timber. None of that material evidence was present. The second major theory suggests the colonists gave up waiting, loaded into boats, and attempted to sail the Atlantic back to England on their own. The logistics make this impossible. The colonists didn't possess any ocean-going ships. They were left with a few pinnaces, small, shallow water boats designed for coastal scouting, not the open sea. Since the colony wasn't destroyed and it didn't sail away, we have to look exactly where the settlers told John White they were going. Facing winter with dwindling supplies, the colonists turned to the only local safety net available. They splintered off and integrated with the local indigenous populations to survive. On this 1590 map, Croatoan is a geographical label for a barrier island to the south. Tracing the route from Croatoan to Roanoke shows a 50-mile journey. Navigating these protected sounds in small boats was a logical, achievable trip. The region was home to established indigenous societies. This contemporary watercolor shows their permanent architecture and vast agricultural systems, infrastructure capable of absorbing a group of refugees. Recent excavations on modern-day Hatteras Island, the location of the historical Croatoan settlement, have provided physical confirmation of this move. Excavators discovered 16th-century European goods, like copper rings and this ceramic jug, intermingled in the same soil layers as native artifacts. This evidence shows the colony's timeline didn't end in 1590. It simply merged into the history of the families already living on the coast. Faced with starvation and abandonment by their empire, the Roanoke colonists did the most rational thing possible. They adapted. Holding on to a strictly English identity inside a failing fort meant certain death. Joining indigenous tribes was their only viable survival strategy. This grounded historical reality stands in contrast to the popular ghost story of a colony that inexplicably vanished. As the British Empire expanded, a spooky mystery became culturally useful. It is easier to tell a story about a disappearance than to admit the very first English foothold in America only survived through Native American charity. The true legacy of Roanoke is not a supernatural mystery, but a history of early European and Native American integration that has been largely erased.